Next Wellness Wednesday is Navigating Nutrition with Parkinson's Disease. This is a part of our social engagement series. These programs are not recorded just to the nature of the event. So we will be demonstrating how to create a bowl, which is incorporating grains, vegetables, and protein. And we'll also delve into techniques on how we can repurpose leftovers. Anybody here really love leftovers? Sue does. Okay, great. I know lots of us who might be navigating Parkinson's on our own really just don't like eating leftovers that often. So we're going to explore how to repurpose those foods in your fridge that might get thrown out. You don't want to miss this fun meal. It's going to be a lot of fun between myself, a colleague of mine, and a nutritionist who is dedicated to providing um, medicine through food for people with Parkinson's. So I'll see you guys there next Wednesday. That's September 6th. And you can find out more, the recipes posted on our webpage at parkinson.org/pdhealth. This Thursday, if you guys want to see me again, I'm going to be hosting our second webinar for veterans living with Parkinson's. We're going to be talking about how we manage anxiety, depression, and apathy. Again, that's Thursday, August 31st at 4 p.m. If you are a veteran or living with a veteran with Parkinson's, please do join us. You can learn more and register at parkinson.org/vetsmood. Today's PD Health at Home is presented by the Light of Day Foundation. Always want to thank the Light of Day Foundation for supporting the mission of the Parkinson's Foundation. So thank you, Light of Day Foundation, for your support. Lastly, any changes to your journey with Parkinson's, or if you're new to Parkinson's disease, or if you're here on behalf of a loved one learning about Parkinson's disease, please visit our webpage, parkinson.org. You can also call our helpline at 1-800-4PD-INFO or helpline at parkinson.org. It's been some time since I got to share the screen with you guys at this capacity. Our facilitators have been so dedicated to offering their expertise that it's really been a joy to sit back and meditate in community with you all. But I'm really excited to share on today's topic with you all. So I was doing some research and listening to the surveys that you all offer in response after our events, and really noticing what's been really popular on the website, what continues to come up for requests in our Mindfulness Mondays. And one of the most popular, I'd say, events that we've hosted is talking about response and reactivity. So you're here today because the title must have appealed to you in some way. So we're going to explore the difference between responding and reacting. Does anyone want to be brave and bold and maybe share in the chat what you think the difference is between reacting and responding? So a reaction, let's see, Kelly, thanks Kelly, is shooting from the hip, okay? Yeah. Reacting is without thinking. Julie, great. Catherine says responding is being thoughtful versus reaction is immediate and often emotional. Yeah. Reacting is getting outside of oneself, whereas responding is staying centered. You guys don't need to be here. You guys already know the answer. Reacting is immediate. Response is when you think before you react. Yeah, your reaction is quick. Yeah. Hi, Afshan from Pakistan. Welcome. So reaction, as many of you alluded to, is instant. It is intuitive also, and often charged by emotion. It's driven by what we call the unconscious mind. That's why we often seem to react without thinking, right? This phrase, without thinking. Oh, I reacted without thinking. That is, in fact, reaction. It's based entirely in the heat of the moment. So thinking about, gosh, my younger days in college was like, oh, just one more shot of tequila, one more glass of wine, or another bite of chocolate, right? Heat of the moment. And when we react, we rarely consider those long-term consequences of our actions, sometimes even benefits. So reactions can benefit us as well. A response, as you've all kind of taken the cake on this one, occurs after we've taken a few moments to pause. Moments of pause where we consider an outcome. And here in that moment of pausing, we become aware. So what is mindfulness? Awareness of our thoughts, behaviors, and actions. And feelings, can't forget emotions. We might even consider that our response is more in alignment with our core values. So someone wrote in the chat, aligned, feeling centered. Yeah, so when you're responding versus reacting, you come from a place of alignment and being centered. Yeah, Julia says more objective if you respond. Yes. Reactions and responses are fueled by different parts of the brain. Anyone heard of the reptilian brain? We've talked about this before. The reptilian brain is mostly concerned with self-preservation. So this is a new word we haven't heard here on our Mindfulness Mondays yet. Can someone in the chat share and tell me what self-preservation means? What is self-preservation? Survival, protection. You put yourself first, your own survival. I think last week it was Dr. Rush who said, you go through the spiel on the airplane that says put your mask on first. That's self-preservation. Looking out for number one, safety from a threat. Yeah, so self-preservation protects us from other thoughts, conflicting thoughts, beliefs. It protects our physical body. Self-preservation also protects our patterns and our ways of thinking. So a really good example, I hate to throw this in there, but thinking about politics. When you're in a conversation with someone who does not believe in the same beliefs that you hold, you get this really defensive demeanor, right? Your chest gets real boasty like a pigeon and you start to get a little timid. And sometimes self-preservation is to completely reject ideas that you don't understand, think, or know and part of your life. And that is preserving your thoughts, your beliefs, and the patterns in which you know to be true to your core values. So that's an example of self-preservation. It is also to avoid conflict, another form of self-preservation. So the reptilian brain exhibits for self-interested behaviors. So I'm hungry, I shall eat. I'll feed myself before I feed the children. I feed myself because I'm the weakest one in the family and I need the nutrients or nourishment before others. The function of the brain's concerned mostly with avoiding harm and keeping us alive. So this is a part of reaction. We're doing what we can to preserve ourselves. And these behaviors often come out of things that we've learned over the years, kind of autopilot. So thinking about things preserve. You wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth, self-preserving your teeth. You make breakfast. You go to a boxing class, self-preserving the body, the mobility of your body. You might do a crossword puzzle, thinking about self-preserving your cognitive function and Parkinson. So a lot of this autopilot behaviors come from what we know and what we can control. A response is fueled by this more evolved part of our brain. Anyone know what part of this brain is? It's this big part right in the front, the most evolved part of the brain. It's called the prefrontal cortex. We've heard this before, right? It's a big topic in Parkinson's disease because Parkinson's disease can impact our prefrontal cortex in the function of making decisions or our cognitive behavior. The prefrontal cortex is responsible for more complex thinking. So complex thoughts such as changes in homes, changes in a car, perhaps, maybe changes in medication or exercise or food. The prefrontal cortex is also responsible for the way that we express ourselves and also how we moderate our social behavior. So thinking of who you are right now in your home, sitting on the couch versus that person when you go and have coffee or tea with a friend out in public, or the person who shows up for your exercise class, we moderate our social behaviors. And that comes from this part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex. So when we react, we're at the mercy of our emotions. And someone said this as soon as I asked, what's the difference? Someone said, reaction is based and fueled entirely on emotions, mostly. Yeah. We are at the mercy and the lack of awareness of our emotions. So our reptilian brain, our reactive brain, makes this knee-jerk decision based on how we feel in the moment. In the event of reacting, we often sense that we're not acting like ourselves. This can be because reactions are spontaneous and not solely based in a centered mindset, a very mindful mindset. When we respond, this is the key difference. We are aware of our thoughts, aware of our emotions, and aware of our behaviors. We can use logic to consider consequences or benefits for ourselves and for others. So this was another thing that someone wrote in our chat was when you react, you're thinking about yourself, self-preservation. When we respond, we can consider how our behavior and our reactions, or our calm reaction, our centered reaction, our response, can impact others as well. We're putting our intelligence to work. So why do people react more than they respond? Why do you think that we do these knee-jerk reactions much more than taking a pause to evaluate? Shelley says fear. Yeah. Yeah, Shelley, when we react, it's often out of fear. Can be related to fear of change, or again, fear of conflict, or panic. Yeah, you need to make a decision. It has to be done right now. Past trauma, PTSD. Yeah, so reaction for sure. Defensive, Sarana. Yeah, that's a good one. We often can be found very defensive when conflicting ideas show up, or something that says, oh, that pattern of thinking or that way of moving through your life might need to change. Phil says habit, big one. In psychology, they call these schemas. In yoga, they call them samskaras. So you have these patterns in the way that we navigate and thinking and doing in our lives. Yeah, the power of habit's huge. Lois says we've been there before. So we react to a situation that we're familiar with, and then we'll respond or react in a way that we know that we're familiar with. Jane says lack of knowing what to do. Yeah, so not knowing what to do can be I don't like to use the word trigger, I say glimmer, can be a glimmer as to why we're reacting. Kelly asks the question, is reactivity a learned behavior or part of the environment we live in? Both. Yeah, I think about I think about my childhood and growing up, and the reactivity or the way that my parents responded to certain situations, or the way my older sisters responded. I learned that. I learned to either be reactive or responsive through my siblings and by modeling what was happening in my household. Absolutely. So it's environment and it's learned. Steve, misunderstanding. Yeah, this is where reaction can often be consequential. And I have to blame communication skills. I can't stress how important it is to communicate with ourselves and our loved ones for that very reason, Scott or Steve. Misunderstanding. We don't always know that we could act differently. That's true. Yeah, we don't really see another way, right? I had a friend ask me, well, Krista, what's one way that you could, you know, find another line of income? And I said, this, da, 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 all these different ideas. And then she goes, what's another way? Oh, and here I am with other ideas. So there's always different ways. There's always ways. Yeah. When we react, it involves almost zero brain power. You don't really have to think about it. It just happens. And in our society, in our world, we're constantly going, right? So it's bad to slow down. Take a pause. No, we have to keep going, keep thinking, keep doing. And so our brains have learned to behave in that way, very reactive, very quick, very quick. And this means that we don't use the mental strength. That's why we're here today, is to step out of this autopilot, out of this quick reactive state of mind, and step into self-awareness and tap into that mental strength that we all have. That's why we continue to show up for Mindfulness Mondays. Having self-awareness is especially hard when we're stressed. Anyone here stressed? Yeah. When we're angry. Anybody here angry? Frustrated? Fatigued? Yeah. Having self-awareness is especially hard when we're living with Parkinson's. It's in these moments when we are most likely to react instead of responding calmly. And that's why unhappy people are more prone to reacting, while content people are usually able to respond non-reactively. In some cases, it can be better to react versus respond. So we come back to that survival instinct, right? The problem is we are so much more in our fight or flight response that it's so easy to kind of set that off. We're sitting here in mindful meditation to learn to be more responsive and less reactive, to learn to be more mindful and more aware. Something was said to me about how so many people are sleepwalking through life. And if we continue to be reactive, that's exactly what we'll continue to do. Sleep through life instead of live it. To respond to a particular event, often we have to notice that we're being reactive. Our mindful meditation practice teaches us to separate ourselves from our thoughts. Frequent meditators develop the ability to witness their thoughts. So just noticing, what are you thinking about right now? Are you present? Are you present in this moment of being mindfully aware of reaction or responding? Or are you pouring a cup of coffee or thinking about how badly you need to use the restroom or how thirsty you are or when you're going to have lunch or when you're going to the grocery store or when your daughter's coming to pick you up? Are you here? We learn to pay more attention to our body, and through that, we become more self-aware of sensations, of thoughts that arise when we're about to fall victim to a reaction mode. Once we can do this, it becomes much easier to pause. Take a deep breath and respond. I have to quote this because I think Dr. Rush said it a couple weeks ago. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Viktor Frankl. I'll write this in the chat for you guys so you have those words to read later. I'm going to share a little acronym with you all. It's called PLACE, P-L-A-C-E. It's often recommended to help us become aware of our emotions and non-reactive ways. So the P stands for pause. We pause when the moment that we notice our emotions are changing. For example, my mother came to visit me this weekend, and this morning she left. And as she was leaving, I started to become emotional and realizing that my mama was leaving. And so I paused before I just went down that rabbit hole of sadness. I took a deep breath. And then the L stands for label. Label your emotions. So Dr. Rush a couple months ago walked us through a meditation of naming our emotions, mindfully naming our emotions. So being able to label your emotion. How are you feeling right now? Are you angry? Is it frustration? It's much easier to process an emotion when you consciously put a name to it. And then the A, ask yourself why. Why are you about to react? Be as detailed as possible. Question can help you identify and find a way. If it's not the way, find another way, a different way. And the C stands for choose. Choose a mindful response. Ask yourself what you want. What's your desired outcome? And then choose from maybe a list of responses that's most likely to get you there. And then through this acronym of place, using these moments of pause, it empowers yourself. Notice how much better it is to respond from a place of mindfulness instead of reacting out of fear, panic, last minute choices, and then give yourself a pat on the back. Fred Durst said, when I look back on my knee-jerk reactions now, I realize I should have just taken a breath. Good. So let's come into a practice where we're going to cultivate awareness. And finding a seat that makes you feel comfortable. A dignified sitting posture, perhaps in a quiet space. Not too upright or rigid like a soldier, nor slumping over. Sitting in a way that helps you feel focused and aware of sensations. We have about 6 minutes left together. We'll use that 6 minutes to be mindful. If it feels comfortable, you can close your eyes. And as you find this meditative seat, just start to connect with sensation. Perhaps the temperature in the room, any sounds you might be hearing, or your breathing. You can use your breath as an anchor of awareness. Notice how your feet are making contact with the floor, how you're supported by a chair or the couch. Notice how your arms and hands are resting. Now allow your weight to sink down through these points of contact. Wherever possible, just sink down. And allow any tension to drain away. And we'll start to begin to search for some stillness within. And gently shifting your field of sensations in the body. We start to notice the awareness of what we hear. And your attention now falls on your ears as we become aware of hearing. This beautiful gift of hearing sounds. Sounds come in a variety of ways. The form of pitches, tones, frequencies, even my voice. You may notice that as sound comes from a sense of silence, There's this rising and falling of sounds. And in between, a return back to silence. Notice if you're trying to hear sounds or don't hear anything at all. Just listening, letting the sounds just be. You may even notice that acknowledging all the different forms of sounds, your mind may have become busy with images or stories connected with the sound. Different sounds appear and then disappear. Just like the breath, just sounds. Inhale, feeling the air going in through your nose. Notice the pause before you exhale, releasing, letting it all go. And perhaps noticing how you feel in this present moment. And take a deep breath in. Open the mouth, let it go. And starting to open your eyes. George said, "I'm looking at the flowers behind you." George, did you come back to your breathing? Or the sounds? Hmm. Yeah. Tell me how that was. So the objective of taking that moment to pause and breathe and listen is an exercise we can use when we feel we're in a reactive state. Pause and breathe. And sure, you can get distracted by the flowers behind the screen or the sound outside or the to-do list that's going on in the mind. The objective is to pause. And these are tools that we put into our mindful toolbox, right? Nearly fell asleep. You know, Steve, sometimes that is the most profound compliment that you can give a meditation teacher. That means you were comfortable, one, or that you're very sleep deprived, um, or, yeah, you were very comfortable. So I hope it was a good little siesta for you. Yeah. All right. Any questions before we close out? Good. Thanks, Steve. Sure. So I encourage you the next 2 weeks where we're going to be in a little bit of a hiatus due to Labor Day. Um, think about this. Think about your reaction and see if there's a way to be more responsive. Thank you, Shelley. Well, I wish you all a beautiful day or evening and continue to show up in this mindful way for yourself and for others. I will see you live on September 11th. We'll see you then. Bye bye.